So hello and welcome everyone. Today's show is called Lucid Dreaming and I'm here with Charlie Morley. Charlie's an author. He's an expert on lucid dreaming. He teaches online and all around the world. He's written a whole bunch of books. A couple of them are called Lucid Dreaming Made Easy, Dream of Awakening, among others. You can find all of his books, all of his courses. He's got a free online class. All of you can find at his website, charliemorley.com. Charlie, welcome to the show.
Hey man, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
How did you first get into lucid dreaming? Like, did it start as a kid? It was something you got into as an adult, or?
Yeah, as a kid, I used to like wet the bed till I was till quite late, till about like 6 or 7. And I used to have these dreams where like I'd be in the dream and I'd really need to pee, and then the needing to pee would like wake me up in the dream, and I'd be like, oh wow, I'm dreaming. I should wake up and go to pee, but then I was scared to wake up because there were sharks under my bed. That's why I wouldn't get up in the night. So I would then go in the dream and find a bathroom and take a pee, which of course is a trick. Never do it. And then I would wake up wetting the bed. So that's my kind of first memories. Then when I'm like 15, 16, I get into, I don't know, mind expansion stuff and psychedelics, and then lucid dreaming pops up again. I think, oh, it's this like free psychedelic experience where you can gain access to like a virtual reality simulation of your own mind and do all this cool stuff. So yeah, got into it there. Just wanted to use it for kind of sex and skateboarding. Then a couple of years later, I get into Tibetan Buddhism, and they're talking about this thing called dream yoga, saying how lucid dreaming is this spiritual practice. And I was like, yo, I know how to lucid dream. And one of the monks was like, oh, really? You had a lucid dream? I was like, I've had loads. And this moment where he says, what do you do in your lucid dreams? And this embarrassed reply of like, oh, just skateboarding. I didn't want to say I was just using it for sex.
Yeah.
And then they started giving me instructions. Then I ended up living in a Buddhist center for almost 8 years and training with the different lamas who were teaching it. And then, then at 25, I got authorization to teach, which is where you get asked to like, you get the kind of like seal of approval to teach in Buddhist temples and stuff.
And when you say Buddhist temple, you mean you're doing meditation and lucid dreaming as part of that, or they're just straight up, the whole thing is lucid dreaming?
Well, lucid dreaming is a meditation. So if we define an element of meditation as knowing what's happening as it's happening, then the lucid dream is by definition a meditation within the dream state. But there are certain, waking state meditations. Yeah. A lot of things very similar to yoga nidra that you do before bed.
Sure.
And then, of course, literally the practice of meditating within the lucid dream that's said to be one of the highest forms of meditation there is. Different, but same.
So I struggle with sleeping. I always have you have your earliest memories of lucid dreaming. I have my earliest memories of like insomnia. I just never slept well. And I've had a pretty good year, oddly. It was a really stressful year, but somehow I'm sleeping better. I think taking away options helps me to sleep. But I don't dream. And when I do dream, I dream of mundane, anxious moments. For example, I'll be trying to put the key in the door and the key is wrong. Trying to find the right change to buy something at the store, trying to find my shoes at the door. So pedestrian, so that it's they're so unremarkable and it's just so for that reason I don't like to dream, and the times that I do dream are usually times of poor sleep as well too. My kids wake me up or something, that interruption, or daytime sleeping, these kinds of things. What kind of insight do you have for me, Charlie? Fix me.
Well, number one, you are dreaming. Everybody dreams every night. There's no way to stop the human brain from dreaming.
Okay.
So based on like an 8-hour sleep cycle, you'll be getting about 5 dream periods. Now, you mentioned kids waking you up, so let's drop that down to maybe 6 hours sleep or something. You'll still be having like, hours of dream a night. 8-hour sleep cycle, you get about 2.5 hours of dream per night.
Okay.
So you are dreaming, but the thing is, are you remembering your dreams? And that bit is linked into your perception of dreams. So a lot of people say, I don't write down my dreams, or I don't remember my dreams because they're so boring. And I'm like, your dreams are so boring because you're not writing them down.
I see.
If you start to pay attention to your dreams, if you think about like there's a script writer in your head, right? And that script writer has to, let's say you're getting 8 hours sleep, has to create 5 brand new Hollywood dramas every single night, right? But there's no one in the audience. There's no one to watch these shows. They're going to write the most pedestrian shit. But if you tell your dreamer like, right now I'm listening. I'm going to keep a dream diary. I'm open to what you say. Within about 5 to 7 days, people find that if they start keeping a dream diary, the vividness of their dream recall increases, the perceived meaningfulness, because of course scientifically we can't say there's meaning, so the perceived meaningfulness of their dreams increases, and their ability to remember them increases. So it's not long. If you were to start keep a dream diary from now until next a week today, Monday, I can almost assure you the pedestrian nature of your dreams will have changed. You'll be remembering more, and you'll be probably gaining some sort of psychological insight from your dreams. But that's my challenge to you. If you can,
Yeah,
keep a dream done.
yeah, for sure. That's interesting. As you were saying that, there have been a few times when I've dreamed very lucidly and very creatively, and all of them were during meditation sessions. So I've done multiple of these, like 10, 12-day Vipassana sits.
Oh yeah.
And you mentioned the Hollywood drama. When I was in my early 20s, I studied screenwriting and playwriting and things like this. So I know the structure. I know the structure. So I would go to sleep and I would really, I would visualize these like really, really formulaic stuff, which I like, I really, really struggle to make. And it was just like, wow, like that was a very, very interesting experience. And again, I guess when you say dreams, people automatically assume like, clouds and hallucinations and things like that. And for whatever reason, I just don't think I'm wired that way. But I'd create like psychological dramas and, Hollywood type films that I value, like, nerdy artsy films or whatever, but with like a 3x structure or a 2x structure for stage or whatever. Yeah.
If you have this in your mind, you have this vocabulary in your mind of a screenwriter, as I do too.
Yeah.
There's some research done in the early 2000s that showed people who ingest more complex narratives have more complex dreams.
That's
so they basically got people to watch things like The Usual Suspects, with that really complex structure before bed, and they found they had more complex dreams. People started going to the theater. They started having more complex dreams.
Interesting.
Like tonight, if you were to read Tolkien, like Lord of the Rings, for an hour before bed, you are going to have some crazy dreams because dreams are based on reconsolidation of memory. So if we've installed like an hour's worth of new content into the brain before bed about orcs and elves and all crazy Tolkien-esque stuff, you have to dream about it. So you can actually use this as kind of a dream incubation technique of intentionally, like if you want crazy dreams, like do new things. Like if you were to, like, you've never done salsa dancing or something like that.
Sure.
If you were to start salsa dancing for 2 hours in the evening, you would have to dream about that because the brain has the process. So you're now likely to have dreams of dancing. So you can actually kind of play the system a little bit there.
We've had a number of different sleep experts on the show in the past, and they've said surprisingly different things about REM sleep specifically. Do you have thoughts on REM sleep? Like, is that part of a healthy sleep cycle? Is it necessarily there? Is it maybe there?
Oh, definitely. REM is one of the, all sleep cycles are important, but REM is the one that you die without. Like if you miss 2 nights sleep, like you're traveling or raving or something like that, then eventually you go back to sleep, you will have almost double the REM periods. You won't get double the deep sleep. You won't get double the light sleep. You'll double the dream. So the brain,
as you play catch up or whatever.
Yeah. If you got sleep debt, the brain prioritizes REM over all others. Why is that? Because the 2 main functions of REM, memory reconsolidation and trauma integration.
Okay.
So back in the day, if you had missed 2 nights sleep, maybe it was because you were in a war with a neighboring tribe. Maybe it's because you've been hunting for 2 days, a big mammoth on the plains.
Right.
So when you went to sleep, the brain went, shit, if I've missed 2 nights sleep, the bit that's really important is the memory reconsolidation stuff. How did I get that mammoth with my spear? Or how did I fight that tribe? Or if I was traumatized in battle, I need to now dream about that. That's why nightmares are good. Nightmares are such a good sign. 13 years ago when I started this, I was meeting psychologists who still believed that nightmares were a sign of a traumatized mind. Now, writing a new book, I've interviewed psychologists who said, I am more worried if a client presents without nightmares after a traumatic event than if they do. Because if they're presenting with if they don't. Because if they're not presenting with nightmares, then it shows that the brain hasn't started to process the trauma. If they're presenting with nightmares, a nightmare is like a wound that's weeping. It's like a scab. Think of it like that. So it's a really good thing to have nightmares. So dreaming, if you look what they did in Guantanamo, the part of the sleep torture they were doing to get around the EU inspectors, they were putting them in stress positions that allowed them to enter all stages of sleep, but not REM. Now, if you take someone's dreams from them within a couple of weeks, they will sign anything because psychosis sets in quick.
Wow.
So REM is one of the most important types of sleep, which is why you are definitely having it every single night.
So from an adaptive perspective, you're saying that this is your body trying to take these learned experiences and derive some meaning from it, right? Whether it's trauma or whatever.
For evolutionary purposes. So again, meaning is speculative, but evolutionary purposes. So let's say like we live in a cave, like caveman A, caveman B.
Yeah.
You're dreaming about lions, tigers, and bears all night, and I'm dreaming about just chilling on the savannah. A week later, we meet a lion, a tiger, or a bear. Who's more likely to survive? You, because you've been dreaming about how to fight them, how to flee from them, how to hide from them.
Right.
So dreams play an evolutionary role. And if you look at how dreams, all mammals actually, apart from the the duck-billed, no, the anteater, yeah, and the duck-billed platypus. They have a different visual cortex, but like
Huh.
all mammals dream. In fact,
Oh, really?
mammals.
Interesting.
So it's like it's hardwired in. Yeah.
Is it fair to say, like in the same way that, sleep is regenerative for your body, this is your mind sort of locking in learned experiences? Because again, from that adaptive perspective, if you can't learn from your experiences that previous day, you're more susceptible to the dangers or the missed food opportunity or whatever. Is that the idea?
Absolutely. So deep sleep's about flushing toxins through the brain, human growth hormones being released, cellular growth and reproduction. REM dreaming sleep is about memory reconsolidation
Memory consolidation. Yeah.
and
Interesting.
trauma integration. So yeah, I mean, you're paralyzed during REM. Like, why would Mother Nature do that to you? You are most vulnerable to predation in REM dreaming sleep. So
Right.
if Mother Nature was going to do that to you 2.5 hours a night, she better have a freaking good reason why.
Yeah. Um, a significant portion of people listening right now go to bed on something, whether it's a glass of red wine or a couple of puffs off a vape pen or some Ambien or some melatonin, or
Mhm.
so many people go to sleep on something. Um, how does that affect dreams, and how should people think, like, if they really want to get into this, is it important they go to bed sober, meaning no external stuff? I mean, I even get effects from taking like magnesium or something, it changes my sleep patterns. And that's very, very different than somebody taking an edible and going to bed. It's going to completely affect the way they
Yeah.
sleep. What
So
are, what are your thoughts on that?
so THC,
Yeah.
so the stuff that gets you high in weed affects shortens your REM periods, your dream periods, and
Shortens
affects
them.
your ability to remember them.
Makes
CBD
you
oil, on
stupid.
the other hand,
Yeah.
doesn't. CBD oil
Yeah.
doesn't affect dreams, can help you get
Interesting.
to sleep. So that's very
Yeah.
different. Wine metabolizes, sorry, like a unit of alcohol. So let's say you have like a glass of wine with
Sure.
dinner, that metabolizes within about 2 to 3 hours. So if you
Yeah.
have dinner at 7, you're in bed at midnight, that's not going to affect your sleep cycle. But
Okay.
like going to bed drunk, that isn't,
Yeah.
that will stop you, reduce your deep sleep and affect your REM cycles too. I mean, I would say if
Yeah.
you want to go to bed on something, and you'll dig this, I just watched your TED talk, go to bed on breath.
Mm.
The new book, Wake Up to Sleep for stress and trauma affected sleep, is
Yeah.
working with like heavily traumatized populations like veterans who are averaging like 3 or 4 hours sleep a night. And a lot of them self-medicate to try and get to sleep, whether legally or illegally.
Yeah.
If you can get someone like 20 minutes of coherent breathing,
Mm.
like real slow, deep breathing before
Yeah.
bed, that has such a powerful effect on the autonomic nervous system. It's going to do way more than a sleeping pill or
Sure.
a vape of, weed is going to do.
Yeah.
So I would say breathe before bed.
And so, if I understand correctly, you've done work with people with PTSD and things like this, and with people who have trauma and things like this. It's kind of a catch-22, right? You have trauma, so you can't sleep. You need sleep to heal the trauma. How do people break that
Yeah.
cycle?
So a lot of people, when they look at sleeplessness or insomnia, focus on the sleep bit. I say don't focus on sleep. Sleep is an
Ah,
automatic phenomena which will
right.
occur in the absence of stresses that prevent it from occurring.
Mm.
So you can have all the blue light blocking stuff you like, and blackout blinds, everything. If your ANS is in fight or flight, you ain't getting to sleep. We know,
Yeah.
and you know this. I've seen you
Yeah.
talk on this. Fight or flight releases cortisol and adrenaline into the bloodstream. Cortisol and adrenaline like a shot of coffee for the nervous system. So we
Yeah.
need to go into parasympathetic response to go to sleep. So I don't focus on sleep. I focus on daytime parasympathetic dominance. So
Mm.
if you get someone to do like half an hour of yoga nidra a day,
Sure.
half an hour of coherent breathing a day, half an hour of mindful movement with breath, kind of breath, body, mind, stuff like qigong with slow breathing, that as a side effect, that will regulate the nervous system, and as a side effect, sleep will happen
Yeah.
naturally. So I take a like fiercely body-based approach. It's not about
Sure.
sleep hacks. Like sleep hygiene stuff might work if you're a stressed out city worker, but
Yeah.
if you're a traumatized vet just come back from Afghanistan, or you're someone with complex PTSD who's had child abuse their whole life, you need a
Mm.
stronger medicine than some sleep hacks, and that's what
Yeah.
the new book is about.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so deep
Um,
relaxation, breath work, sleep awareness, and a bit of lucid dreaming. I mean, lucid dreaming isn't good
yeah.
for everyone. If you're currently in trauma, it's probably not the
Yeah.
best thing to do. But if you have a trauma, it's one of the most powerful and direct ways to integrate post-traumatic stress disorder nightmares is lucid dreaming. Like the science is in.
And what do you think about people deriving significance from dreams? The people are in a stressful point in their life and they wake up and they dream their partner's cheating on them, or they wake up and they dream that their business partner stole money from them, or whatever it is.
Mm.
Are, is that just totally subjective, hard to make any generalizations, or what are your thoughts after looking at this for all these years?
Yeah, hard to make generalizations, but
Yeah.
it can be interesting to look at the role of anxiety dreams. So anxiety
Okay.
dreams, those classic ones of, I mean, you mentioned one, not being able to find the key in the lock and
Yep.
stuff like that. Or
Yep.
let's say you're about to leave Barcelona, you've been locked down for a long time, you're flying
Yeah.
back to the States or to see me in the UK, and the
Yep.
night before you have your flight, you have a dream that you can't find your passport or the airport's closed, all that kind of stuff. And some people wake up and say, "Oh my God, it's an omen. That means I'm not going to catch my flight." Scientifically, and they do studies on this, you are now more likely to catch your flight than had you not had the anxiety dream.
I
Because
see.
what do you do after that anxiety dream? You check, where's my passport? Is the
Yeah.
airport open? They did a study on this at Sorbonne Medical School that they found it really hard to get into Sorbonne Medical School. Only about 10% of people make the grade, right? And
Mm.
it's no coursework, it's down to one exam, right? So highly, highly stressful populations. And they did a dream study, sleep and dream study, and they found that students who had nightmares or anxiety dreams about failing the exam in the 2 to 3 days leading up to it, all did significantly better in the final exam those who
Crazy.
didn't. The top 5 marks all had a nightmare on the night before. And the nightmares were great. Like one woman,
Yeah.
she turned over the exam paper and it was a piece of toast. And she's like, how do I write on toast? The other ones, they couldn't find the exam room and stuff like that. So the current scientific theory on this is that anxiety dreams prepare us for the worst, not so the
Yeah.
worst happens, but so that we're prepared to survive the worst should it happen. So once you learn this, like if I don't have an anxiety dream before a big talk, I'm worried. I'm like, oh shit, maybe I don't care
Right.
about this enough. But if I'm like have a big anxiety dream before I've got 50 people on a retreat, I'm like, oh, it's going to be a great flip your view of nightmares and anxiety dreams. We need to completely depathologize sleep. And
Yeah.
sorry, depathologize dreams because we live in a society that thinks we either don't dream or if we do dream, they're of little or no significance. The significance is not so much from the meaning, but from the role they play in our lives. Like your mind has got your back. Your
Yeah.
anxiety dreams are trying to help you. Your nightmares are trying to heal you. Like we need to like spread the word on this because we live in a culture where we don't know those things yet.
It's so interesting. I bet it's been about a year and a half. My like ongoing saying to myself, like one of the biggest things I've learned is that mostly my organism, it just wants me to survive and procreate, and all this other stuff is like invented nonsense. And so, like that I like to think I have deep thoughts and stuff, but really it's just like Monday morning, survive and procreate, survive and procreate. And so this idea that your anxious dreams are serving you, I mean, it makes sense. So much of the stuff
Yeah.
that we medicate and that we therapy, and it's just like your body's just trying to keep you safe. Like there's a real risk. You
Yes.
might not get into that
Yes.
medical school, and the whole trajectory of your life, that's a very real risk. Like the stakes are so high, you'd be crazy not to be worried.
Dude,
It's
here's a cool one for you because you mentioned
yeah,
the medical school thing again. You know, I said the top 5, they had nightmares before.
yeah,
One of those top 5, in her nightmare, she turned over the paper and there was a very specific question on one of the vertebrae in the back. I don't know, vertebrae 23 or
yep,
something.
yep,
And she woke up from that dream in a shock. And she realized that actually in real life, she didn't know what that vertebrae was. So she woke up in real life, checked it, went, oh, vertebrae 23,
yeah,
oh, it's to do with this. The next day, that question actually came up on the paper. Now, of course,
crazy.
the scientific study is like, we have no idea how to explain that. I'm like, it was a psychic dream. What the fuck? Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know how to explain that one, but very
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
And so for people listening who are bad dreamers or, zero dreamers like me, and well, let's say mindless dreamers like me, and we want to be more aware of what's going on. How do you recommend people get started? Is it a paper journal next to the bed? Do you use notes on the phone? What do you
Sure.
recommend in terms
So
of like
first thing I'd
highest
say is
efficacy?
remind yourself, know that you are dreaming. So just
Okay.
the fact that
Acknowledge it. Yeah.
people have
Yeah.
heard this now, that, oh shit, I had no
Yeah.
idea, right? This guy's for real.
Yeah.
Like, and you can Google it if you don't believe me, like we're dreaming every night. Okay. Number one, because I think we block ourselves
Yeah.
based on the expectation that we are not dreaming. So number one, remove that. So know you are dreaming. Number two, before you fall asleep at night, even just sitting on the edge of your bed and saying like, I really want to remember my dreams tonight. I know that I am going to be dreaming, so I want to remember. That can be enough for many people. But a little bit of a stronger medicine would be as you fall asleep through the hypnagogic state tonight, which is, your eyes are closed, you're drifting off to sleep. You haven't blacked out yet. You're in that in-between state.
Yeah.
As you can see from the word hypnagogic, it's like a natural state of hypnosis. As you're falling through the hypnagogic, be saying, tonight I remember my dreams. I have excellent dream recall over and over again for a few minutes as you fall asleep. That in itself has a very high hit rate of dream recall. but mainly in the morning. Yeah, write into your phone or write into your get a dream diary and just note your experience. Doesn't have to be loads, just 5 minutes. You'll know what to write and what not to write. And maybe tomorrow morning for you, you just get one sentence. Oh, I had a dream of a woman in a red dress. Well, that's great. That's more than you had the night before. And you
Yeah.
build up and build up. But you'll find within about 5 to 7 days of keeping a dream diary, vividness will increase, perceived meaning will increase, and like narrative complexity will increase because your script writer is going like, "Whoa, Lucas, you're actually listening now? Oh my God, dude, I got so much to tell you. We've got issues with our dad. Let's bring that in. We've got sexuality stuff. Let's bring that in. Let's bring work anxieties." Like, so actually, people should be ready for that. It's not going to be all love and light. Like, if you tell your
Yeah.
dreamer you're ready to listen to it, it's not up for small talk. It's up for deep convos, right? So like it might get deep quite quickly, but this is great. This is for our and they've also shown lucid dreaming is dream diaries, simply writing down your dreams are good for your mental health. Because they did a study that shows every dream leaves an emotional resonance within our body. So let's say you've had a dream at night that your lover's cheating on you or something like that.
Yeah.
Even if you don't remember it, when you wake up in the morning, you will have the same cortisol, all of the kind of chemicals of anxiety that the dream produces still in your body. Now, they've found that if you remember the dream, and even better if you write it down, it discharges and downloads the emotional impact of that dream. So could it be that there are millions of people waking up in the morning feeling a bit angsty, just feeling a bit
Right.
like depressed or down on themselves? And it's actually not that they're a depressive or an anxious person. They've just had an anxiety dream, an unremembered anxiety dream that is still living in their body
Yeah.
in a chemical form. I mean, that blew my mind. I was like, whoa, so keeping a dream diary is literally good for you? I mean, I've been telling people to do this for 13 years. Now I've just found a study that shows it's actually good for us. I mean, that's so cool, right?
What does yours look like? Do you have stacks of like little moleskin
I think
papers, or do you go on and off, or do you just randomly send yourself a voice memo? What's your protocol?
Oh, no, I'm every day, man. I need to walk the walk on this.
I mean, what does that look like? Is that 3 sentences? Is it like a couple of notes, or?
No, quite. Again, I can write. I give myself like a time limit, so
Okay.
I'll see what I can do in 7 minutes.
7
It's a
minutes.
bit like
Okay.
reviewing a
Fair
film.
enough.
So, like,
Yeah.
you know, a 2 hour film, and your buddy asks what happens. You wouldn't tell them every scene, but in 5 minutes,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
sum up the main
summary.
thing. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of like that. But yeah, I took a photo on my Instagram of all my dream diaries for the last 20 years since 17, and yeah, it's just stacks of books, and then I do printouts because I've been using my phone for the last 5 or 6 years now. But
Okay.
at the end of every year, I print it out, so I do have a solid dream diary too.
Yeah. And from your experiences, what has been like a standout moment where you just thought like, wow, I'm so glad I'm doing this. I learned something about myself, or I was able to transform something?
Probably something that's happened recently, actually, just to keep it fresh. I mean,
Sure.
I've been in kind of pretty deep dive core process psychotherapy for the last year and a half. Because last year I had like the end of my marriage, my mum dying, heartbreak, like shit was really heavy for me about
Yeah.
a year and a half ago. So I went into therapy. And what I've noticed is that the dream responds to therapeutic breakthrough. So just a couple of weeks ago, I had a very big breakthrough of really heavily integrated trauma. And the next night after that session, I had a dream that basically confirmed it. And it was so important for me to see that my intrapsychic world had responded to the daytime integration and vice versa. And I realized that the dreams become a litmus test. Like if you keep, like, you want to know who you're secretly in love with? You want to know what bully from school is still on your mind? Like, look at your dream diary.
Yeah.
Everything is revealed there. So it's not only revealed, but it's also confirmed. So after this big breakthrough in therapy, the dream was like, yeah, that trauma's gone. And that meant so much for me to like fully release that moment of time, which had been with me for over 30 years. So yeah, I think that, you know, it's cool because usually these interviews are all about lucid dreaming. This one has been about dreaming itself. So I want to stick to that rather than lucid dream. But yeah, you know, even if you get lucid every night, 80 to 90% of your dreams are going to be non-lucid. So
Yeah.
it's not all about lucid dreaming. You can have powerful, powerful breakthroughs through non-lucid dream work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great stuff. Great conversation. You really got me thinking, you know, whenever, I've had a bunch of conversations with, people who are into dreams, and very often they're trying to superimpose meaning, which I don't really get that excited about. I was in therapy a couple of years ago, and you know, this therapist is just so excited. He's like, "Did you kill animals in your dreams?" I was like, "Come on!" Like, I was like, "I've read those books too. That's not where we're going here."
Dude,
You know?
let's say me and you tonight, we both dream of a cat, right? And then we go to the same therapist, or we open the same
Yeah,
dream dictionary, and it says, "Oh, cats mean this." Like, dude, maybe I was mauled by a cat as a child. Maybe you love lol cat videos on YouTube. We
Totally.
both mean the cat completely completely opposing meanings. And someone's going to tell us cat means X, Y, Z. Bullshit, dude. Make your own dream diary. So I know when cats appear in my dream, they mean this. I know when my father appears, he represents this. I know when, whatever it is. And for you, it'll be totally different. So by keeping a dream diary, we start to create our own internal dream dictionary. And then there is meaning. The dreamer is trying to communicate. It's not random. It seems random in the same way as if I sat in a cafe and listened to two Chinese people speaking, I could say, oh, they're making random noises. No, of course it's not. It's a complex, detailed language that I simply don't understand.
Yeah.
So when we first look at the dream, it can seem random. But give enough time to learn the language and your specific dialect of the language. That's the thing. There's a rough universal structure, but it's much more about your specific dialect. And I don't know your dialect, so who am I to tell you what a cat means?
Yeah. Final question. A lot of people are using, binaural beats. They're using yoga nidra recordings. They're using, assisted stuff to meditate, to sleep. And they often go hand in hand, because I think probably the most common time people meditate, mindfulness, listen to music stuff is usually, it's 20 minutes right before going to sleep. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that in terms of assisting, aiding? Does it just depend on the person, or?
Yeah, go for it. 2,500 years ago, you didn't have your teacher couldn't record something on a voice note and guide you. Right? But now we can. I mean, there's some slight concerns around EMF. So if you're affected by electromagnetic fields, then try and keep it a meter away from you. Very few people are highly sensitized to that. I have a timer on so that when the meditation finishes, the app will automatically switch off. See if you can download it so the app isn't active, so you can be in airplane mode while you're listening to your yoga nidra or sleep track or something. Go for it. Use the technology that exists.
Perfect. And Charlie, really great conversation. For people who want to get in touch with you, tell us what you're up to this year and tell people where to find you.
Sure. So I've got a new book coming out in October called Wake Up to Sleep, 5 Practices to Transform Trauma for Peaceful Sleep. That is not a lucid dreaming book. That's for people with stressed out or traumatized sleep.
Interesting.
Based on all the work I've been doing with the veterans for the last 5 or 6 years. If you're into lucid dreaming, I got a new course with Mind Valley that just came out, like a 30-day intensive lucid dreaming quest. So that's like if you want to learn how to lucid dream. I don't know when I'm back on tour, man. I had a big tour booked before lockdown. And I've just moved everything online. So I've got monthly free events, the Lucid Dream Drop-In. We have like about 150 to 200 people there, 33 different countries. We hang out, it's like a Q&A session with me. So that's free every month, so check that out. There's also online retreats. There's a shadow work coming up in May. And there's my books and courses. Anyway, you'll find everything at charliemorley.com. Yeah. And on Instagram, Charlie Morley, Lucid Dreaming Teacher, all that.
Great. Well, thanks so much. And let's keep in touch.
Cool. Thanks, Lucas. It's been really great. Thanks, dude.
For the first time ever, Yoga Alliance has opened up their bar standard, their 200-hour certification for online-only training. Because of COVID-19, obviously, we can't train in person. And so the 200-hour training, if you don't know, is kind of the gold standard. It's what about 95% of yoga teachers teaching in studios or fitness centers or at home or privately, wherever. It's about what 95% of people use for their teaching credential. And historically needed to spend about 3 weeks in person, which was great. We had people coming from all over the world to Barcelona to train with us. And so when COVID happened, obviously we went online, and we were online only. We always had fusion courses. We were really nervous about the change. Could we do it? Could we actually train people only virtually without hands on toes and these kinds of things? And I have to say, not only has it gone well, in many ways it's gone better than our in-person course. Why? First reason is we have more time, so instead of cramming everything into 3 weeks, we take a full 8 weeks. Second reason is the technology has some real advantages. We can zoom in on students, we do hot seats, we do workshops, we have quite a large training team giving feedback on a daily basis. So you join a live class, you get feedback about your practice, you get up on camera and you teach. It's incredibly interactive, the community is really strong. The short story is I'm really excited about this. It's working great. We have a new batch starting here very, very shortly to learn about our upcoming course. We've already got a great group of students signed up, and the trainers and I are excited. Go to yogateacherscollege.com and we'll share more details. So if you're thinking about becoming a yoga teacher, if you'd like to make the most of this COVID time, it's a great time to get certified at home. We have a listener question this week from Kelly on Instagram. Kelly says, Lucas, I've been trying to lose weight this spring and I'm drinking water as many experts advise. I keep a bottle of water in the car, on my desk, and on my kitchen table, and I'm definitely up to 4+ liters per day. But then I just got sent a video from a friend after I told her what I'm doing. And in the video, it says you might deplete your minerals and you could affect your kidneys. Should I be worried? It's really popular weight loss and just health advice to drink more water. And more is a really general term. What does more mean? But you'll hear it all the time. Drink more water, more gratitude, more exercise. It's like, how do we quantify these things? What does that really mean? And so is it possible to drink too much water? It definitely is. It's pretty rare that people get into real trouble. If you've ever been to Burning Man in Nevada, everyone's obsessed with drinking water. And there have been people who've died there from excessive water intake. They have renal failure. But that almost always involves somebody on narcotics, MDMA or something like that. So irrational behavior coupled with paranoia about dehydration. So I don't think there's a likelihood that you're going to damage your kidneys. I don't think that's very realistic. Is it possible that you could deplete minerals? Yeah, a lot of minerals are water solvent. And if you drink a ton, if you sweat a ton, you can really deplete your minerals, your electrolytes and things like this. It could certainly happen. But for a lot of people, drinking more water can be a really good gateway. I've never met anybody who really holds with that long term. So sometimes in the short term, it can be really just a helpful way to kind of combat hand-to-mouth syndrome, which is where you just feel like putting something in your mouth because it's 3:00 in the afternoon, and a bottle of water with a little bit of lemon can suddenly make you feel like you just ate something when you didn't. There's two things to think about, though. The first one is it certainly can mess with your digestion. If you've ever been to a restaurant that had a big jug of water on the table, combined with the fact that the food came really slow, don't know if you've ever had that combination, but if you had that combination, very often, by the time the food comes, you've had like 3-4 glasses of water just because you were bored and sitting there. And the reason I use that example is because many people can relate, and that can really mess up your digestion. So your stomach is really strong acid, right? And when you dilute that with a whole bunch of water, it can mess with your digestion. I'm not somebody who advocates not drinking water with meals. At the same time, I generally don't drink water with meals. I tend to drink before or after meals. And by before and after, I mean usually plus or minus 10 minutes is enough for me not to get an upset stomach. But if you're someone who struggles with digestive distress, or if you're just somebody who has a sensitive belly, it's not a great idea to be pounding that much water all the time close to meals. In terms of mineral depletion, yeah, that certainly could happen. You could certainly combat that by having mineral dense algae or even taking mineral supplements and things like that. Probably better not to deplete yourself. But if it's working for you in the short term, I think it's a pretty simple strategy to, again, just kind of deal with the fact that sometimes we like to put things in our mouth. There is this overemphasis on the benefits of water. There's a kind of a meme going around online about John Foley, who's the founder and CEO of Peloton. Really interesting company, seems like a really smart guy. In any case, there's this trend of asking successful people what they do in the morning. Their morning routine is supposed to be somehow an insight to their soul. And he says he goes to the bathroom sink and basically shovels water into his mouth until he feels like he's going to puke. And I guess the idea is like we're so desperate for water when we wake up in the morning. I think that's misplaced attention, and I don't think that's gonna result in any big health benefits. But if having a bottle of water in your car, a bottle of water on your desk, bottle of water on your kitchen table is helping you during a period of transition where you're changing eating habits, I would say go for it. I think the benefits far outweigh the negatives. We have a listener question from Anthony on Instagram about meditation and seated practices. Anthony says, Lucas, I know you're mostly a breathing guy, but I think you have some experience with meditation. I'm curious to know if you think lotus pose really makes meditation better or if it's just another way to sit. I get this question a lot. I think when we think about a great meditator, we automatically assume that they're in a full lotus pose. I can sit in a full lotus pose for an hour straight without moving. And I can tell you it's just really uncomfortable. I have done that for days and days at a time, and I can't say that there's any sort of special unlock for meditation. I've also sat with very experienced meditators in the Vipassana tradition, like 20 years plus, and some of them even more. And I even did a sit with S.N. Goenka before he passed. And the vast majority of those people, 98% plus, are not sitting in a lotus position. People often ask me this because I teach hip opening, and Very often the goal is a lotus position. It's usually not an ideal position to be sitting in for a long time. People will usually take some variation of Sukhasana, like an easy pose, which you could think of like school style, but with your hips a little wider and maybe your feet stacked on top of each other. But my experience has been, I've been exposed to a lot of meditators. I mean, I was in one meditation hall in Shelburne Falls in Massachusetts. There's probably 350 people there, all of whom had at least a decade of experience with pretty hardcore stoic meditation. And they all had kind of different ways of sitting. Pad under the knee, pad under their bum, block under here, half lotus, some sort of weird W sit. Everybody kind of has their own sit. Here's the thing, sitting is uncomfortable for long periods of time, and the discomfort is part of your practice. When you open up your hips, it becomes less uncomfortable, but it's still uncomfortable. So I wouldn't be aiming to learn lotus pose to have some sort of magical meditation unlock. It is an interesting goal for some specific yoga poses. It can be interesting to do inversions with your legs in lotus and things like that. But unfortunately, meditation is just hard. Thanks for listening to The Lucas Rockwood Show. If you enjoy the podcast, I have 2 asks of you. Number 1, share the show on social media with your friends and tag me. My handle is @LucasRockwood. Number 2 is please leave a rating and review in whatever app you're listening on. And last but not least, before you go, if you'd like to be on my mailing list, every week I send out information about the podcast, behind the scenes stuff, announcements of online classes and special events. I email about once a week. You can do that at yogabody.com/sign me up. And right now we have a free breathing worksheet on that page as well. It's yogabody.com/sign me up. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.